The golden light of dawn spilled across the endless dunes, painting the horizon in shades of fire and gold. Elena stood barefoot on the cool sand, the vastness of the Sahara stretching out before her like an ocean frozen in time. The wind brushed against her face, carrying with it the scent of distant spices and the faint echo of drums from a far-off village. She felt small, yet limitless. This wasn't just another stamp in her passport. This was a journey inward, a silent challenge to discover the strength she didn't know she had. Her solo travel in Africa was more than an escape. It was the beginning of a story she would carry for the rest of her life. For nearly a decade, Elena's life had been confined to glass walls and fluorescent lights, her days dictated by emails, conference calls, and the relentless tick of the office clock. Each promotion brought more responsibility, but less joy. She began to feel as if she was living in a spreadsheet, organized, efficient, but utterly lifeless. One rainy Tuesday, while staring out at the gray London skyline, she realized she hadn't truly felt alive in years. That night, she closed her laptop, opened her browser, and with a single click, bought a one-way ticket to Africa, a place she'd only admired from the safe distance of documentaries and travel magazines. There was no itinerary, no set route, no return date. Just her weathered backpack, a leather-bound journal, and the quiet determination to see what solo travel in Africa could teach her. She wanted to trade the hum of office air conditioning for the sounds of open markets, the press of the underground for the expanse of wild landscapes, and the predictable comfort of routine for the unknown thrill of possibility. Her first stop was Marrakech, Morocco, a city that seemed to breathe in rhythm with its people. The moment she stepped out of the taxi, her senses were flooded. Fabrics and shades of crimson, gold, and turquoise draped from market stalls like cascading waterfalls of color. The air carried the rich aroma of saffron, cumin, and freshly baked cobs bread, mingling with the sweet perfume of mint tea being poured from silver pots high above delicate glasses. The souks were alive, a chorus of bargaining voices, the clink of copperware, and the occasional bray of a donkey making its way through narrow, sunlit alleys. Elena let herself get lost, tracing her fingers along carved wooden doors, watching artisans hammer patterns into brass trays, and tasting sticky sweet dates offered by a smiling vendor. Every interaction, every shared laugh over her broken Arabic, was a reminder. She didn't need to blend in to belong. Here in the winding heart of the Medina, she was simply another thread in the city's vibrant tapestry, welcome, even if only for a fleeting moment. But solo travel in Africa wasn't always easy. In Namibia, Elena decided to rent a dusty old jeep to explore the Namib Desert, a vast ocean of golden dunes that stretched farther than the horizon. The road was little more than a ribbon of gravel, winding between ancient rust-colored mountains and valleys where silence felt almost sacred. Halfway through the journey, the jeep sputtered, coughed, and died. She stepped out into the shimmering heat, the sun pressing against her skin like a heavy hand. The nearest town was hours away, and her phone screen flashed, the one thing no traveler wants to see. No signal. Panic began to creep in, cold and sharp, despite the heat. She scanned the empty road, wondering if she'd have to spend the night in the car. That's when she spotted a figure in the distance, a man walking toward her, wearing a wide-brimmed hat and carrying a worn metal toolbox. His name was Samuel, an old mechanic from a nearby village who had been driving the same route. With steady hands and a knowing smile, he coaxed the jeep back to life. But instead of sending her on her way, he invited her to his home for dinner. That night, they sat cross-legged on a woven mat, sharing grilled fish, fresh pap, and stories in a blend of English, Oshiwambo, and laughter. When the meal was done, she stepped outside and looked up. The sky was a black canvas scattered with a million points of light, so bright they seemed to hum. And in that moment, Elena understood something deeply. Kindness needs no translation. It speaks in gestures, in smiles, in the way people show up for each other, when it matters most. In Uganda, Elena signed up for a guided trek deep into the Bwindi impenetrable forest, a name that sounded like a dare. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and wild orchids, and the canopy above seemed to swallow the sky whole. Each step sank into mud. Each breath mingled with the rhythmic hum of the forest, Hours passed as they climbed slippery slopes, ducked under vines, and listened to the distant calls of unseen creatures. By the time the guide signaled for silence, her clothes were plastered to her skin, her legs aching from the climb. And then, through the thick curtain of leaves, she saw him. A massive silverback gorilla, sitting in a shaft of sunlight, his fur glistening with morning dew. He turned his head slowly, meeting her eyes with a gaze so steady, so unflinching it stole her breath. It wasn't the look of an animal, it was the look of an equal. Something ancient and knowing passed between them in that stillness, as if he was measuring her spirit and finding it familiar. In that moment, the noise of her old life, the deadlines, the to-do lists, the constant scrolling, faded into nothing. All that existed was the heartbeat of the forest, the sound of leaves shifting in the breeze, the silent conversation between two beings who understood each other without a single word. Solo travel in Africa had been peeling away her layers, her routines, her distractions, her invisible armor. But here in the presence of this gentle giant, she felt it all fall away completely. What remained was something rare, pure presence, deep humility, and a raw awe that made her feel both small and infinite at the same time. From then on, Elena's travels took on a different rhythm, one that no longer measured time in miles or check-ins, but in the weight of each experience. In Cape Town, she rose before dawn and hiked up Lion's Head with only the faint glow of city lights below her. As the sun crept over the horizon, painting the sky in ribbons of gold and rose, she didn't rush to take a photo. She just stood there, feeling the cool morning breeze on her skin and the quiet thrum of the earth, waking up. In Ethiopia, she spent an entire afternoon in Segei's modest kitchen, learning to whisk teff batter until it bubbled just right, then flipping thin, spongy rounds of injera onto a woven basket. The air was warm with the smell of Berber spices, and the laughter they shared needed no translation. And in Malawi, she began each day sitting by the glassy waters of the lake, pen in hand as fishermen's canoes drifted across the horizon. Her journal filled with not just what she saw, but how she felt, the slow blossoming of gratitude, the sharpening of her senses, the quiet joy of simply being where her feet were. She wasn't chasing the next destination anymore. She was chasing moments and, more importantly, letting the moments find her. Solo travel in Africa taught me something I didn't expect, Elena reflects, her voice steady but tinged with emotion. I came here thinking I was lost, hoping the miles would somehow lead me back to myself. But instead, I found the world. And in finding the world, its people, its wild spaces, its unfiltered beauty, I found me. She pauses, remembering the warmth of strangers' smiles in dusty markets, the sound of waves crashing on the skeleton coast, the way the night sky in the Serengeti seemed endless. Africa wasn't just a destination on a map, she continues softly. It was a mirror. Every challenge reflected my resilience. Every act of kindness revealed the compassion I'd been carrying all along. Every breathtaking view reminded me that courage doesn't roar. It whispers one step at a time. Keep going. For Elena, the journey had ended, but the transformation was permanent. She had come for adventure and left with a new way of seeing herself and the world. If you've ever dreamed of traveling solo, let Africa be your teacher, patient, unpredictable, and endlessly generous. From the heartbeat of its bustling cities to the silent stretches of golden desert, from the untamed calls of the jungle to the soft lapping of lake waters at dawn, every step here is a story waiting to be lived. And maybe like Elena, you won't just collect miles, you'll collect moments that stay with you forever. For more travel inspiration, practical tips, and real-life stories from the road, subscribe and explore the links in the description. Your solo adventure could start with a single click and it might just change everything.